Have you ever avoided sharing your accomplishments because you didn't want attention? Maybe you downplay your talents, hide your true feelings, or make yourself small in social situations. Perhaps the thought of being truly seen, really known by others, feels more terrifying than comforting. If this resonates with you, you're experiencing something deeply common yet rarely discussed: the fear of being seen. People who fear being seen aren't shy in the simple sense. This goes deeper than social anxiety. It's about the terror of being fully visible, fully known, in the vulnerability that comes with letting people see who you really are. But before we dive in, if you're enjoying this exploration of human behavior, consider subscribing to Mura Psychology for more insights into the psychology that shapes who you are. Now let's explore the 5 key traits that define people who are afraid of being seen. If you recognize yourself here, know that this fear is protecting you from something. Understanding what that is can help you finally step into the light.
The first trait is deep fear of judgment and criticism. People who fear being seen are often carrying a heavy fear of being judged. They believe that if people really saw them, their true thoughts, their struggles, their imperfections, they would be criticized, rejected, or ridiculed. This fear isn't irrational. Often, it comes from past experiences where being visible led to pain. Maybe they shared something vulnerable and were mocked. Maybe they expressed excitement about an achievement and were met with jealousy or dismissal. Maybe they were criticized so harshly as a child that they learned visibility equals danger, so they developed a survival strategy. Stay small, stay hidden, don't stand out. If no one sees you, no one can hurt you. This creates a painful paradox. They long for connection and understanding, but the very act of being seen feels like exposing themselves to attack. So they hide behind masks, present curated versions of themselves, and never let anyone get too close. The tragedy is that this protection also prevents real connection, because when you're hiding, you're not truly known, and when you're not known, you're alone, even in a crowd. The second trait is perfectionism in fear of inadequacy. Many people who fear being seen are perfectionists. They believe they need to be flawless before they deserve to be visible, and since perfection is impossible, they stay hidden indefinitely. This perfectionism is rooted in the belief that they're not enough as they are, that their value depends on being exceptional, accomplished, or impressive. If people saw their messy reality, their struggles, their ordinariness, they'd be exposed as a fraud. This is often called imposter syndrome, the feeling that you're not as capable as people think and that being seen will reveal that truth. But here's what they don't realize. Everyone feels inadequate sometimes. Everyone has messy parts they hide. The difference is that people who fear being seen believe their inadequacy is uniquely shameful, that if others knew the truth, they'd be rejected. So they work harder, achieve more, and still feel like it's not enough to justify taking up space. They dim their own light because they're convinced it's not bright enough. And in doing so, they rob themselves and the world of their genuine gifts. The third trait is trauma or past betrayal around visibility. For many people, the fear of being seen is directly tied to trauma. Maybe they grew up in an environment where attention was dangerous, where being noticed meant being criticized, controlled, or hurt. Maybe a parent used their vulnerabilities against them. Maybe they were bullied for standing out. Maybe they experienced betrayal when they trusted someone with their true self. These experiences teach a powerful lesson. Visibility is unsafe. Being seen leads to pain. So the nervous system adapts. It learns to keep you small, quiet, invisible as a form of protection. This isn't a conscious choice, it's a survival response. The body remembers that being seen once led to harm, so it creates anxiety and discomfort whenever visibility threatens. Even in safe situations, even with safe people, the fear remains, because trauma doesn't operate on logic, it operates on pattern recognition. And the pattern says being seen equals danger. The fourth trait is low self-worth and internalized shame. People who fear being seen often carry deep shame about who they are, not just about what they've done, but about their fundamental self. They believe there's something inherently wrong with them, something unlovable, broken, or unacceptable. This shame makes visibility feel like exposure, like showing people the ugly truth they've been hiding. They're not afraid of being seen for their accomplishments or their surface personality. They're afraid of being seen for who they really are underneath, and they're convinced that if people saw that, they'd turn away. This shame often develops early. Maybe they internalized messages that they were too much or not enough. Maybe they were made to feel that their emotions, needs, or existence were burdensome. Maybe they absorbed the belief that love is conditional on being a certain way. Now as adults, they hide because they believe their authentic self isn't worthy of love or acceptance. The irony is that shame thrives in hiding. The more you conceal yourself, the more powerful the shame becomes. It's only when you risk being seen and find acceptance that shame begins to lose its grip. The fifth trait is conflict between desire for connection and fear of vulnerability. People who fear being seen often experience a painful internal conflict. Part of them desperately wants to be known, to be understood, to connect deeply with others, but another part is terrified of the vulnerability that requires. This creates a push and pull dynamic. They get close to people, then retreat. They share a little, then shut down. They long for intimacy, but sabotage it when it gets too real. This isn't manipulation or game playing, it's genuine terror, because being truly seen means being vulnerable, and vulnerability feels like handing someone the power to destroy you. What if they reject you? What if they use your truth against you? What if they leave once they really know you? These questions haunt people who fear being seen, so they maintain distance, even in close relationships. They show enough to seem open, but hide enough to stay safe, and they wonder why they feel lonely, even when surrounded by people. The answer is simple, but hard. You can't be truly connected while hiding. Real intimacy requires being seen, and that means risking the very thing you fear most. Understanding these traits reveals something crucial. The fear of being seen isn't about arrogance or wanting to hide your greatness. It's about protection. At some point, being visible felt dangerous, so you learned to disappear. And that strategy worked for a while. It kept you safe from judgment, criticism, and rejection. But it also kept you from connection, growth, in the joy of being fully known and still loved.
Research shows that visibility and vulnerability are essential for mental health. Brené Brown's work on shame and vulnerability demonstrates that shame cannot survive being spoken. It thrives in secrecy and silence. When you risk being seen and meet with empathy, shame begins to dissolve. But when you hide, shame grows stronger. The fear of being seen perpetuates the very thing it's trying to protect you from. Throughout history, many remarkable people struggled with this fear. Emily Dickinson rarely left her home and published only a handful of poems during her lifetime, despite writing nearly 1,800. Vincent van Gogh struggled with visibility and sold only one painting before his death. Franz Kafka requested his work be destroyed after he died. These brilliant people feared being truly seen, and while their work eventually reached the world, they suffered deeply from their isolation. You don't have to follow that path. If you're someone who fears being seen, know that healing is possible. Start small. Share something real with someone safe. Notice that the feared catastrophe doesn't happen. Practice being visible in low-stakes ways. Post something genuine. Speak up in a meeting. Let someone see you cry. Each small act of visibility rewires your nervous system. It teaches you that being seen doesn't always lead to pain. Sometimes it leads to connection. Sometimes people meet your vulnerability with kindness, and slowly the fear loses its power. So the next time you feel the urge to hide, to downplay yourself, to stay invisible, pause. Ask yourself what you're really afraid of, and then ask if staying hidden is truly keeping you safe or just keeping you small. You deserve to be seen. not despite your flaws, but with them, because your wholeness, messy, imperfect, real, is what makes you human, and that's worth showing. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. When did you first learn that being seen was dangerous, and is that still true today? The answer might surprise you. Remember, fearing being seen isn't about weakness, it's about having been hurt when you were visible before. But you can learn something new, that being seen by the right people, people who meet you with compassion, is one of the most healing experiences possible, and you're worthy of that healing.